Hello everybody, I'm Dan Murrell, here with a look at some of the award winners and big buzzy movies of the Cannes Film Festival, which wrapped up yesterday. The consensus among a lot of people, a lot of critics and people in attendance, was that this festival was a little less flashy, maybe a little less impressive than other Cannes Film Festivals in the past, but that doesn't change the fact that there are some movies that we will definitely be seeing in theaters here in the United States, and movies that will be part of the Academy Awards and other awards conversation going into next year. So let's start off by looking at some of the winners, the prize winners at Cannes this year. And the winner of the Palme d'Or, the top prize at the Cannes Film Festival, was a movie called Fior from director Christian Mungiu. The headline here is that Neon maintains its streak as the distributor for the Palme d'Or winner. It picked up North American rights for Fjord earlier this month, and it has now distributed every Palme d'Or winner since Parasite in 2019 here in the US. Fjord stars Sebastian Stan and Renate Reinsve as a couple who relocate their family from Romania to a small village in Norway. Despite a warm reception, they soon find that their culture and beliefs clash with many of their neighbors, which spins into a public domestic crisis that gets bigger by the day. This is the second Palme d'Or win for Christian Mungiu, who also won in 2007 for 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. He's also won the screenplay and director prizes at Cannes, so one of the most acclaimed filmmakers in Cannes history. Early reviews of Fjord have been very positive. It got reportedly a 10-minute standing ovation, and we're going to talk about standing ovations at the end of the video, which was the second longest reported ovation of the festival. And you have Sebastian Stan and Renate Reinsve in the lead, both recent Oscar nominees, and Oscar nominations often tend to be streaky, especially in the acting categories. You've got Neon on board. This is a movie that you want to circle, highlight, bold, whatever, going forward, because Fjord, I think, will absolutely be a big part of the Oscar conversation next year. The Grand Prix, or second prize, went to Minotaur from Russian director Andrei Zvyagintsev, who has previously won a lot of acclaim at Cannes and made a huge splash with his 2003 debut film, The Return. Minotaur is based on the 1969 French film The Unfaithful Wife, which was also the basis for the early 2000s Diane Lane film Unfaithful, made here in the US. It's set at the onset of the war in Ukraine, and it's about a Russian shipping company owner who discovers that his wife has been cheating on him with a younger man. Despite being based on familiar material, Minotaur has received very strong reviews, particularly for its leads, Iris Lebedeva and Dmitry Mazarov. The Best Director prize this year actually went to the directors of two different films. I guess you would call it a tie or a co-presentation. And both of these films were pegged by many to potentially be Palme d'Or winners. The first pair of directors to win were Javier Calvo and Javier Ambrosi for their film The Black Ball, which reportedly received the longest standing ovation at the festival at 18 minutes long. The Black Ball also received strong reviews and was acquired by Netflix shortly before the awards ceremony began yesterday. The Black Ball jumps between 1932, 1937, and 2017 and tells the story of three gay men and how all of their lives are connected via the 1936 Spanish Revolution. Penelope Cruz and Glenn Close have supporting roles in the film. This is the feature directorial debut of Clavo and Ambrosi, who have dubbed themselves Los Javis, and many, as I said, predicted that it would win the Palme d'Or. Still, it looks to be a very strong contender for awards season, especially with Netflix behind it. If Netflix gives this film the kind of push that they did for Emilia Perez, which also won awards at Cannes, then we could very easily see this in multiple categories. The other winner for Best Director was Pavel Pawlikowski, whose last two films have been Oscar nominated, including a win for Best International Film and a Best Director nomination. His latest film is called Fatherland and stars Hans Zischler as Thomas Mann, the German writer who fled Nazi Germany for the US, who returns to Germany in 1949 to accept an award. Sandra Hüller plays his daughter Erika, and it's about the two of them rediscovering a home that has been greatly changed by World War. Fatherland has been picked up for distribution already in North America by Mubi, and this is another film you could look for in multiple categories. The Best Actress prize went to a pair of actresses, Virginie Efira and Tao Okamoto, for All of a Sudden. All of a Sudden has emerged as one of the best reviewed films of the festival and received, as with the other ones we've talked about, one of the longest ovations of the festival. It's the latest film from director Ryusuke Hamaguchi, whose Drive My Car won Best International Film at the Oscars a few years ago. All of a Sudden is a 3+ hour film focusing largely on one single night of conversation between a healthcare advocate played by Ifira and a theater director played by Okamoto. It's multilingual and sounds like kind of an existential Before Sunrise. Neon acquired distribution rights to the film in North America earlier this year, and given Neon's involvement and Hamaguchi's past Oscar success, this is another movie to keep a very close eye on. The Best Actor prize went to another duo, Emmanuel Macchia and Valentin Campan, for Belgian director Lucas Dont's Coward. The pair star as two soldiers in World War I who fall in love amid the horrors of war. The movie itself received mostly positive, maybe not glowing reviews, but positive reviews, but also reportedly received a 13-minute standing ovation. Mubi has picked up Coward for distribution here in the United States. Dont's now 4 feature films have all been centered on LGBTQ+ characters. His film Close won the Grand Prix at the Cannes Film Festival and was nominated for the Best International Film Oscar. The Best Screenplay prize went to Emmanuel Mach, who wrote and directed the film A Man of His Time. It stars Swan Arlo, probably best known here in the States as Sandra Hüller's lawyer in Anatomy of a Fall, as an ordinary man who seeks status in the Vichy government of France during World War II. This is the government that collaborated with the Nazis. The lead character is actually based on Mach's own great-grandfather, and it received generally positive reviews and a reported 11-minute standing ovation. The Jury Prize, which is an award given for originality, went to The Dreamed Adventure from German writer-director Valeska Grisebach. The Dreamed Adventure seems like sort of an avant-garde Western, a story of crime and murder in a dusty Bulgarian border town that frequently takes its own side roads. And the Camera d'Or for Best First Feature went to the film Bini Mana from director Marie-Clementine Dusabejambo, a Rwandan filmmaker. The movie is about a survivor of the 1994 genocide in Rwanda who helps others, mainly women, find accountability and closure and move forward with their lives. This film has not been widely reviewed, but the reviews that have come in were very positive. So those are the award winners at Cannes, but there were several other notable movies that were received well or were buzzy or both. So let's talk about a few of those. Club Kid, which is the feature directorial debut of Jordan Firstman, who also stars in the movie, set off a bidding war at Cannes, even though it was playing out of competition, that ended up with A24 acquiring the rights to the film for a reported $17 million. It screened in the Un Certain Regard section and reportedly delighted audiences with its story of a New York club promoter who suddenly finds himself raising a 10-year-old son he didn't know he had. Early reviews were unanimously positive. Apparently, audiences absolutely adored this film, and A24 seems to have picked it up with the intention or the hopes of making it a surprise sleeper hit. Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma also competed in the Un Certain Regard section from director Jane Schoenbrunn, who also made I Saw the TV Glow, and it was one of the best and most widely reviewed films of the festival. It currently has a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It also won the Queer Palm Award. Hannah Einbinder stars as a rising filmmaker who's hired to revive a classic horror franchise and seeks out the actress who was the original final girl in the franchise, who's played by Gillian Anderson. Mubi has distribution rights for the film, and it already has a theatrical release date set for August. Another film that had people talking was Hope, which is the first film in a decade from Korean director Na Hong-jin. Though reviews do trend positive, it was one of the most polarizing movies of the festival, with critic scores on Rotten Tomatoes going from 2 out of 10 to 10 out of 10 and everything in between. But it also reportedly floored audiences at the festival. I've seen multiple comparisons to Mad Max Fury Road as far as the kind of ride this movie takes you on. Hope is set in a village near the Korean DMZ where a strange creature begins to menace the community, and the movie reportedly features action, blood, and gore that's so extreme, even seasoned audiences were shocked by it. I have to admit, I am anxious to see the film. Neon has the distribution rights here in North America, and reportedly the film will be released sometime in the fall. Clarissa was also received very well. The movie was directed by twin brothers Ari and Chuko Asiri. It is a modern-day adaptation of Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway, set in Nigeria, featuring performances that have received very strong notices from Sophie Okonedo, Nikki Amuka Bird, Ayo Adebri, and David Oyelowo. Surprise, distribution rights in the U.S. were snapped up by Neon. Paper Tiger also got a lot of positive reviews. The film was written and directed by James Gray, his first film since 2022's Armageddon Time and 2019's Ad Astra. Scarlett Johansson, Adam Driver, and Miles Teller star as a family in 1980s New York who get too deep into a business relationship with the Russian mob. Adam Driver's performance in particular was praised by critics, and Neon also has the distribution rights to this one. Another movie set in 1980s New York was The Man I Love, directed by Ira Sachs, starring Rami Malek as a theater actor who's dying of AIDS. It received very strong critical reviews and a positive audience response. It is, as of the time I'm making this video, currently seeking distribution here in the US. Léa Seydoux had a couple of lead performances that generated a lot of buzz. One of them is in a movie called The Unknown. She plays a photographer who unwittingly swaps bodies with a woman he had sex with. So she's playing the body, but the mind is of the male photographer. Neon has picked this one up for theatrical distribution in the US. Seydoux also starred in Gentle Monster and picked up maybe even stronger reviews for her performance in this film. As a musician whose life with her family and the country is shattered by a shocking revelation, Netflix picked up the rights to this one, and they and Neon could well be waging dueling award campaigns for Léa Seydoux. The Beloved attracted a lot of attention for its star Javier Bardem, who got exceptional reviews for his performance in the movie, maybe stronger than the movie itself. It's a Spanish movie, and Bardem stars as a director who reunites with his illegitimate daughter, who's an actress, but soon proves to be an overbearing artistic collaborator. It is currently seeking US distribution. There were several other films that competed in and out of competition at the Cannes Film Festival that have already been picked up for distribution and that we will see in one form or another in theaters or in streaming here in the United States. Netflix also picked up distribution rights to an animated film called In Waves, which received great reviews. It is a bittersweet coming-of-age film about two surfers who are voiced by Will Sharp and Stephanie Hsu. Neon has the rights to a couple of other movies that played at Cannes, including Her Private Hell, which is the first film in a decade from director Nicholas Winding Refn. It screened out of competition. It got one of the longest ovations of the festival and then got some of the worst reviews of the festival. Probably not a huge shocker. It's kind of par for the course. Neon already has a July release set here in the US. Neon also has the rights to Sheep in the Box, which is the latest from director Hirokazu Korida, who won the Palme d'Or at Cannes in 2018 with Shoplifters. It was not received as positively as that film, but Neon did still acquire the rights. It's about a couple who buy an AI replica of their dead child. Sony Pictures Classics also made a few pickups in the Cannes marketplace. One of them is an animated film called Iron Boy, which is a hand-drawn animated film from former Pixar animator Louis Clichy about a young boy who's forced to wear a full-body metal brace. The documentary Rehearsals for a Revolution was picked up by Sony Pictures Classic. It won the top documentary prize at the festival. It's from director Pegah Ahangirani, who frames recent Iranian history since the 1980s through her own personal memories. And continuing a long-standing relationship with the director, Sony Pictures Classics picked up distribution for Bitter Christmas, which is the latest film from Pedro Almodovar. Bitter Christmas was perhaps a victim of expectation, as the film was received warmly, but perhaps not quite as warmly as fans of the director might expect. Still, Almodovar and Sony have a very long-standing relationship, and you should be able to see this film later this year in at least select theaters here in the US. Bitter Christmas may not have been as warmly received as other movies by Pedro Almodovar, but it was far from the disappointment of the festival. That seems to have gone to the film Parallel Tales from director Asghar Farhadi, whose films have won Best International Movie at the Oscars twice, and who took home the Grand Prix second place at Cannes for his previous film, A Hero. Parallel Tales received mostly negative reviews. It's an adaptation of Krzysztof Kieslowski's A Short Film About Love, and many critics labeled the film dull and meandering. So in a year full of all-star lineups, at least in the director's chair, Parallel Tales appears to have come up short. So those are some of the buzziest movies and the ones that we should be seeing here in the United States, although it's certainly not every movie that played at Cannes this year. Before we wrap things up, I also wanted to address what is often seen as an unofficial competition at Cannes, the movie with the longest standing ovation. Cannes, along with other international film festivals, is infamous for having movies that draw incredibly long ovations, the length of which are often seen as reflective of the quality of the movie itself. And Vulture every year actually puts together a really good compendium of the longest ovations by averaging the times that are reported by the Hollywood trades, because sometimes the times that are reported don't even match up. So according to Vulture, the movie that had the longest standing ovation at Cannes was The Black Ball at 18 minutes. That is a long time to stand and clap. Fjord had the second longest standing ovation at 10 minutes. Then we had the Raffin film Her Private Hell at 9.5 minutes, Minotaur at 9 minutes, All of a Sudden at 9 minutes, The Man I Love coming in at 8.5 minutes, Diamond, which is a noir film directed by Andy Garcia, reportedly came in at 8 minutes, followed by Paper Tiger and Bitter Christmas at 7.5 minutes each. Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma reportedly got a 7-minute standing ovation, along with The Beloved and Club Kid. Fatherland, strangely, despite winning Best Director at the festival, only got a 5-minute standing ovation, which is often seen as a borderline kiss of death at the Cannes Film Festival. But it still came out with a big prize, as did a lot of the other movies we talked about. What do you think? What are the movies here that you are most excited to see as we go through 2026? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, stay tuned right here for the latest in movie news, reviews, box office, and more. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.